At exactly 4:17 a.m., 312 miles off the Venezuelan coast, a sound moved through the ocean so quiet that almost no one alive could hear it. Not an explosion, not the surge of an engine, just the faint hydraulic whisper of torpedo tube doors opening inside a submarine older than most of the men operating it. Inside the Sabalo, 64 Venezuelan sailors believed they were about to change history. They had no idea that history had already been written 6 days earlier in a windowless analysis room in Norfolk, Virginia, long before their submarine ever slipped its moorings. On the distant horizon sat the target, the USS Gerald R. Ford, 100,000 tons of American power projection, 75 aircraft, a crew of 4,500, a price tag north of $13 billion. To the Venezuelan captain, it looked like the ultimate political statement. To the 3 Virginia-class submarines trailing him from 2,000 yards away, it looked like a math problem with only one possible answer. This is what makes the situation so revealing. Venezuela's submarine force did not collapse overnight. It decayed slowly, like fruit left in the sun. 4 German-built Type 209 submarines were purchased in 1976, back when Venezuelan oil money could buy prestige, ambition, and genuine blue water capability. For decades, their navy commanded respect across the Caribbean. Today, 3 of those boats sit idle at La Guaira Naval Base, cannibalized, stripped for parts, reduced to hollow steel shells by a service that can no longer afford even basic maintenance. The Caribe has not moved since 2014. The Carite lost its propeller shaft in 2017. The Tarantula is missing its entire combat information center. Sailors joke that between all 4 submarines, Venezuela has enough working components for maybe 1.5 boats. The Sabalo is the survivor, barely. Its diesel engines have not undergone a full overhaul in 9 years. Its sonar suite still relies on vacuum tubes that were obsolete when Ronald Reagan was in office. Its fire control computer runs software that predates the smartphone. Venezuelan naval officers have not conducted a live torpedo firing exercise in over a decade, not because they don't want to, but because they cannot afford to recover the practice weapons afterward. And yet, desperation does strange things to judgment. A regime facing isolation does not calculate risk the way professionals do. It sees opportunity where others see suicide. Desperation follows its own brutal logic. The Caribbean Sea is not just water. It is one of the most surveilled bodies of ocean on Earth, rivaled only by the waters around Taiwan. Every square mile between Venezuela and Florida is threaded with SOSUS, the sound surveillance system, underwater microphones planted during the Cold War to track Soviet submarines approaching North America. Those arrays have been quietly upgraded for over 50 years. They hear everything: whales migrating, shrimp snapping their claws, thermal layers shifting as warm and cold water collide, and absolutely a Type 209 submarine running diesel engines designed before the internet existed. When the Sabalo departed La Guaira 4 days earlier, 17 separate sensor arrays logged its acoustic signature before it had traveled 50 meters. American intelligence knew the crew roster, the fuel load, the captain's name, his wife's name, the school his children attended. They knew the submarine's maximum underwater endurance down to the hour. They knew which valves leaked, which systems ran hot, which crewmen had reported sick during the previous patrol. The Venezuelans believed they were ghosts moving through black water. In reality, they were performers on a stage where every seat was occupied by American analysts taking notes. 4:18. The torpedo tube flooding sequence began. Seawater rushed into the forward compartment, creating a pressure differential with a very specific hydraulic signature. That sound propagated outward at roughly 1,500 meters per second, 4 times faster than sound travels through air. To Venezuelan ears, it sounded like preparation. To American sonar operators aboard USS Mississippi, it sounded like a starting pistol. Detection occurred in under 5 seconds. Classification took 15 more. Mississippi's BQQ-10 sonar suite confirmed the signature. A Virginia-class attack submarine running silent at 400 feet, its own noise profile so faint that whales have been recorded colliding with boats like it. Weapon assignment took 30 seconds. Fire control solutions were generated for 2 Mk-48 ADCAP torpedoes. Permission to engage was transmitted from Fleet Command. Safeties were removed. The American crew waited for one thing: the order to fire. By the time the Venezuelan captain's finger approached the trigger, Mississippi had locked onto Sabalo's engine room from 2,000 yards, close enough to hear pumps cycling, close enough to count propeller revolutions, close enough that Mark 48 travel time would be measured in seconds. The Venezuelan weapon told its own story. The SUT heavyweight torpedo, revolutionary in 1971, wire-guided, 23 knots maximum speed, a 260-kilogram warhead designed to break Soviet cruiser hulls, a masterpiece of its era, frozen in amber. 53 years later, it was being operated by sailors who had never seen it function outside training videos. The copper guidance wire could snap if the submarine maneuvered too aggressively. The Seeker used active sonar technology from the Nixon administration. It could tell the difference between open ocean and a ship, but not between a carrier hull and the complex thermal layers of the Caribbean. By contrast, American Mark 48 AD-cap torpedoes run at 55 knots. Fiber optic guidance that does not snap, autonomous target tracking, artificial intelligence assistance, thermal layer navigation that treats the ocean like a map, not an obstacle. The gap is not measured in years, it is measured in generations. And yet, a warhead detonating beneath a carrier's keel does not care how old it is. Obsolete does not mean harmless. It means the men firing it will not live long enough to see the outcome. The USS Gerald R. Ford never sails alone. Its defensive envelope begins far beyond the horizon. Virginia-class submarines patrol ahead as acoustic tripwires. P-8 Poseidon aircraft orbit overhead, deploying sonar buoys by the dozens. Arleigh Burke-class destroyers form a moving perimeter, their hull-mounted and towed array sonars listening constantly. Every layer feeds the next, redundancy stacked upon redundancy. The Venezuelan submarine would have had to defeat every single layer to reach effective weapons range. The odds of doing so with 1970s technology against 2020 surveillance are roughly equivalent to sneaking through an airport wearing an invisibility cloak made of aluminum foil. 4:22. The Venezuelan captain gave the order. Fuego. The SUT torpedo launched from Tube 1, copper wire spooling behind it like a leash. 23 knots toward a target 18 miles away. The American response was immediate and devastating in its restraint. No torpedoes fired. No depth charges dropped. Instead, USS Mississippi activated active sonar at close range. One ping, loud enough to rattle fillings, loud enough to echo through every compartment of Sabalo, loud enough that every man aboard understood the truth instantly. We see you. We have tracked you for 6 days. Our weapons are aimed at your engine room. You are alive because we choose restraint. The message required no translation. The Venezuelan captain cut the wire. The torpedo went blind. Its seeker began a futile search pattern, circling through thermal noise it could not interpret. After 11 minutes, it ran out of fuel and sank. A museum artifact settling quietly toward the seabed. 4:38. Sabalo surfaced. 64 sailors stood on a rusted deck staring at empty horizon. No American ships, no aircraft, only blue water and humiliation. The cost analysis was brutal. Venezuela expended 1 torpedo, roughly $1.2 million. Operational costs pushed the total above $3 million. The United States expended 1 sonar ping. Approximate cost $47. The engagement never made headlines, but every naval intelligence service on Earth studied it carefully. Sinking Sabalo would have created martyrs. Letting it go created a lesson. Modern deterrence is not about explosions. It is about information. We see you before you see us. We track you before you act. We allow survival once. After that, the math changes. The Gerald R. Ford continued its patrol without deviation. The Sabalo limped home. And somewhere in Caracas, admirals confronted a truth they could no longer ignore. Their doctrine belonged to another century. This is how power works now. Quietly, precisely, with a single sound that says everything words never could.